Let that sink in. How much of your life is truly your choice? And how much is written in the invisible patterns of the human soul? Think about waking up to a packed inbox, scrolling through headlines that make your blood run hot, or buying things you don't need because something inside is trying to fill a quiet hole. We like to believe we are captains of our destiny, especially here in the United States, praised for independence, taught to celebrate the self. Yet there is another current, older and quieter, tugging at us. Ancestral images, shared fears, repeated myths that shape our dreams and our defenses. It shows up in burnout, in the way politics becomes a theater for projected rage, in the loneliness despite constant connection. This part of us acts beneath awareness, steering choices while we insist we are free. Tonight, let's listen for that whisper, the deeper hum of the collective, and ask what it means to reclaim a life that's truly ours. Stay with me. We'll trace those patterns and find a way back together. If the idea of a shared unseen current felt strange, meet the man who pointed to it, Carl Gustav Jung. Born in Switzerland, Jung began his career with Freud, exploring dreams, neuroses, and the hidden architecture of the mind. He admired Freud, but refused to stop at the personal unconscious. Jung kept seeing images and motifs that reappeared across cultures, as if people everywhere worked from the same script. That made him difficult to categorize. To some, he seemed a mystic, cataloging myths and symbols. To others, he was a rigorous clinician, careful with observation and case notes, translating patients' dreams into meaningful patterns. His language moved out of clinics into books, films, and imagination. Jungian archetypes quietly shaped stories from mythic cinema to superhero epics and in everyday life. But his most radical suggestion was not about isolated minds. It was about a shared psychic reservoir that connects us. It wasn't merely a theory for therapists and scholars. It was also an invitation to rethink who we are in relation to one another, and a hint that the forces steering our choices may be older and more communal than we imagine. That is the path we will follow. Below our everyday memories and personal story lies a deeper layer of the mind that Carl Jung named the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of images, instincts, and patterns formed across generations. Picture being born into a vast library where certain books, flood myths, creation stories, hero journeys, the wise elders' counsel, already sit on the shelves before you learn to walk. We do not read every volume, but their language seeps into our dreams, our fears, our sudden attractions and repulsions. That explains why flood narratives rise in cultures separated by oceans, why dreams of falling, flying, or being pursued feel instantly familiar, and why certain characters, the hero, the mother, the shadow, repeat in films, folktales, and family dramas. These themes are not merely taught. They emerge from a deeper human inheritance imprinted on the psyche. Recognizing the collective unconscious does not minimize personal pain, it contextualizes it. Your anxieties and secret longings are not isolated quirks, but echoes of patterns older than any single life. The revelation is both profoundly comforting and startling. You are never truly alone. Your inner images connect you to a long human story that stretches beyond your lifetime. Archetypes are the recurring characters that live inside the collective unconscious, the familiar faces we meet in our dreams, stories, and sudden reactions. Think of the hero, the part of us that stands up, takes risks, and sacrifices for meaning. The shadow, the submerged, shameful impulses we deny until they erupt. The mother, the source of nurture, safety, and raw creation. The wise old man, the inner voice that guides with quiet clarity. These figures are not abstract ideas. They show up in everyday American life. We adore cinematic heroes who risk everything. We project our shadow onto political opponents and scapegoats. We seek comfort in spiritual and parental images of the mother, and we hunt for mentors who speak like the wise old man. In family arguments, in workplace dramas, in national headlines, these archetypal roles script our expectations and reactions. That explains why certain stories move us to tears, why we rally for underdogs, and why betrayal feels like it splits open the heart. Noticing the archetypes at play gives us power. Once we name the characters inside, we can choose which to listen to and which to transform, and that choice matters deeply. For Jung, finding the collective unconscious wasn't an academic footnote. It was the revelation of a shared human soul. For him, the recurring images, dreams, and symbols were evidence that people across time and place carry the same psychic heritage, an inheritance that binds us deeper than blood, race, or nation. This idea carried weight and risk. In his lifetime, Jung was pulled between camps. Some called him a mystic, a lover of myth and occult ideas. Others accused him of abandoning scientific rigor. Yet he insisted his work was observational, a map of patterns that appeared again and again in patience, myths, and art. He argued that recognizing these patterns could heal individuals and societies. That claim still unsettles us, especially now, when America feels fractured by politics, identity, and fear. Jung's discovery challenges that fracture by suggesting a hidden unity beneath the noise, shared fears, shared hopes, shared stories that shape how we live. If we take his insight seriously, it asks more of us than mere tolerance. It asks us to remember that our deepest struggles are shared, and that healing one heart nudges the whole web of human life toward wholeness. Right now, together. Now turn to one of Jung's most penetrating ideas, the shadow. This is the part of ourselves we push down, the rage, the shameful desire, the petty greed that we pretend doesn't exist. Because it's unbearable to own, we project it outward. We notice those traits in a neighbor, a politician, a stranger on our feed, and insist they are the problem. Social media makes projection effortless. A split-second headline can ignite our buried fury and rally us against a caricature of our own denied self. In American life, that looks like scapegoating, polarized tribes, and moralizing that never quite heals the wound. Jung taught that the path to wholeness runs through the shadow. Healing doesn't come from destroying the other side. It comes from recognizing and integrating the darkness within us. That's not weak or indulgent. It's courageous. It's a stoic move, too. Focus on what you can govern, your judgments, impulses, and choices, rather than trying to control external chaos. When we learn to hold our shadow, our anger loses its purity as a weapon and becomes information. We then act from clarity instead of reflex, and the world becomes less about enemies and more about parts of ourselves asking to be seen. This isn't abstract psychology. It's about your life. Have you ever woken from a dream that left you unsettled, puzzled by the same image, a falling sensation, a house on fire, a figure chasing you, and wondered why it feels so familiar? Or found yourself in the same destructive relationship pattern, unable to break free despite good intentions? Or felt inexplicably pulled towards certain stories, symbols, or people, as if an unseen script were guiding your heart? Those are not random glitches. They're echoes from the collective unconscious and the archetypes living inside you. Naming them changes everything. When you learn that the ache, the compulsion, or the recurring image has roots beyond your personal history, the weight shifts from shame to meaning. Suddenly, the work becomes learning to see, to own your shadow, to choose differently. That process is practical, not mystical. Journaling dreams, reflecting before reacting, seeking guidance, practicing the stoic discipline of controlling what's within your power. The real relief is realizing these patterns are part of a shared human story, which means healing is possible because you never had to carry it alone in the first place. Start small. Notice, name, ask for help, and act with courage. Look around and you'll see the signs of the same invisible wound Jung described: an epidemic of loneliness, workplaces burning people out faster than ever, and a rising anxiety about a future that feels uncertain and unmoored. These problems are often treated as individual failures or lifestyle issues, but Jung would have seen them as symptoms of a larger collective malaise, a culture severed from the deeper images and meanings that once held communities together. When meaning is outsourced to screens, brands, or endless productivity, the psyche starves. People become shells, projecting their unmet needs onto politics, technology, or each other. Jung's answer wasn't just therapy for the isolated soul. It was an invitation to rediscover shared symbols, rituals, and inner work that reconnect us. Imagine that. By tending to your own dreams, by acknowledging your shadow, by reclaiming simple rituals of presence and responsibility, you're not merely patching your life, you're knitting a thread back into the common fabric. Healing yourself starts a ripple. In a divided world, that ripple can remind us that our personal recovery is also a quiet repair of the human story. It begins with small acts of courage and honest reflection each day, today. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Let that truth land for a moment. If you've listened this far, you've been tracking an idea that shifts how we see ourselves. We are not lone islands of experience, but vessels carrying stories, wounds, and wisdom passed down like an invisible inheritance. You are not just an isolated individual. Inside you are echoes of ancestors, the weight of myths, the ache of collective grief, and the spark of inherited courage. That mix of pain and possibility is neither curse nor consolation alone. It is fuel. When you pay attention to your dreams, when you admit the parts of yourself you usually hide, when you notice the archetypal characters that run your reactions, you begin to rewrite the script that once ran you on autopilot. This work isn't grand or mystical, it's quietly radical. By facing your shadow, by learning the language of symbols, by choosing to act from inner clarity instead of reflex, you awaken not just for yourself, but for the larger human story we all share. So ask yourself honestly, what might change in your life if you realized you were part of something timeless and universal? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep wisdom and practical philosophy. Your support helps us bring more content like this to you.